Live Giro time on this Sunday afternoon here, the 97th Giro d'Italia. Trick Factory Racing and a Megaformer quick step to the front, but it hasn't been that way all afternoon. We've actually started the day by seeing Luca Scinto, the director sportif of Neri Sottoli, doing a Gianni Savio, putting his team to work because they missed the break today. The break has 12 riders out there: Maxime Bouet, Jackson Rodriguez, Enrico Barbin, Daniele Ratto, Rafa Torres, Johan Lebon, Andre Cardoso, Damiano Cunego, Adam Hansen, Simon Geschke, Luca Paolini and Fabio Fellini. They had a maximum of about 10 minutes, but as you'll see, Sean Kelly alongside me, it's gone right down to 6 minutes and 42. We really did think that the break probably had quite a good chance of getting there today. Now we've seen Luca Scinto and Neri Sottoli punishing his riders for not managing to make the break. Do you think it's going to have an effect on how this plays out, whether the stage win's going to come from these guys or further back in the peloton?
Well, it was having an effect. Advantage was maximum 10 minutes, and it did come down, you know, to 7 minutes there. It's a bit less now, as we can see, but we see Neri Sottoli off the front, and the gap, will it stabilise here or will it keep on coming down? I think if we allow the race leaders team or make a farmer quick step to control the situation, we could see it going out again. And it's the same situation as we see with Androni Giaccatoli. The manager's getting a bit desperate. Stage is running out. Possibility of stage victories, you know, getting very difficult going into this final week. And today is a one. If you get into the breakaway, you take a big advantage, and you have a guy who can climb pretty well, well then it depends on how he's feeling in the end. And we did see that yesterday, which was, you know, a surprise that there were so many of the breakaway guys held on out there and came in before the big favourite. So I think they're making that calculation. If you get enough of an advantage, well then you have an opportunity and a chance to go for a stage victory, and that's why some of the directors are getting really nervous. Time running out, really.
And they're probably getting a bit of needles from their rivals, let's say, the pro-continental Italian scene. There's a bit of competition there. We've got Neri Sottoli, Androni Giaccatoli, and of course Bardiani, who've won the last two stages. So I think the Reverberi brothers, who run the Bardiani team, might be giving a few dodgy text messages, phone calls across to Luca Scinto and Gianni Savio. And that time you want one, boys, because yesterday Enrico Battaglin worked out now that since he's been a professional since 2011, 4 years, 2 of his 4 pro victories have now come on the Giro. It's a magnificent statistic for such a young rider and a promising rider, and one who hasn't picked up many wins.
Well, I think Battaglin, he did a real good job yesterday, and reading the reports in the steeper section, he just wasn't able to follow, and I think experience there as well. He just kept working at it, lost contact with the stronger riders, but then on the easier section just, you know, came back and closed down again. And what a final he put up. I thought it was game over, because you could see him making the effort there, trying to get back into the leading group, and when he just about made it, I said, that's it, that's his, you know, his best given now, and it's over. But he just got a few moments to recover, and the other guys also, Cataldo, I think, suffered in the final couple of 100 metres with the cobblestones finish. Everybody was really on the limit, and he had just that little ounce more left. And then, you know, when you get over a guy in the final metres, I think they lose heart, and that was the case. He won with a bit more, but Cataldo, you know, was looking very, very on for the stage, but unfortunately he ran out of power in that final 30-40 metres.
Well, you had to really feel for Pantano Gomez as well for Colombia. What a ride he did. He was in tears, inconsolable at the end, absolutely heartbreaking. And we saw quite a few hearts break on that climb yesterday, not just amongst those going for the stage win, but the GC guys had a nervy time as well. If you're looking at the morning paper this morning, Enrico Battaglin had a 9 out of 10. I'm not quite sure what he had to done to get a 10 out of 10. If you can suggest anything there, Sean, I'm not sure. But looking back at the real battle, Quintana made himself known. He was there, he was there. He actually got a bit of stick from Domenico Pozzovivo, who put in the attack and said, well, Nairo didn't do one single turn. Nairo's not acting like the big champion that we're talking him up to be. But both of those guys earned 20-odd second each, and I think we finally saw that it's not certainly nailed on, is it, for Rigoberto Urán? He had a bit of a dodgy day yesterday, not quite sure why. But then again, you have to say, if that was his bad day, he really did land on his feet, because the differences were minimal.
Yes, that is the question. Was it a bad day? Possibly the effects of the time trial as well, because he put in a big effort, and sometimes it takes you a couple of days to recover from that sort of an effort, so maybe that was the problem. Possibly an off day as well, and if it was the off day, as we mentioned yesterday, well, I think he got through quite well and did very well on the day. And he was talking as well, he wasn't really concerned. In some of the interviews he said, well, the team had it under control. I'm not sure on that, because when you see Pozzovivo and Quintana right away, if you've got the legs, you're going to follow them and just leave them do the pulling on the front. And yes, again, Pozzovivo is the man who really put up a big battle there. Quintana wasn't riding as much and then rode away from Pozzovivo, so I can see where Pozzovivo is saying he took 4 seconds from Pozzovivo in the end, the one who did the big part of the driving to get that number of seconds of an advantage from Uran.
Well, 7.5 out of 10 for both Quintana and Pozzovivo. Fabio Aru, 7 out of 10. Rafael Majka, 7 out of 10 from the Giro organisers in their newspaper. They both had decent days. Evans, 6 out of 10. He got a couple of seconds back on Uran. 5.5 out of 10. And Ivan Basso, 5 out of 10. Poor day for Basso. He lost more time. And I think now, Sean, you have to start to accept that Basso's time as a force in the GC stakes really is coming to an end.
Well, yeah, he's losing time, in the difficult finishes, losing the time trial as well, and this is going to be a difficult one for him. He has to change his tactic a bit and try and get into a break maybe, and if he can hold on there at 4 or 5 minutes, and then in the difficult days next week, there's some stages where he could try to go on the attack in between some of the big climbs and possibly pull back a bit, but it's not looking like he's going to have anything major out of this Giro.
55 kilometres to go as we go through Lago Endine. 6 minutes and 52 is the gap. It has grown slightly ever since Neri Sotelo have been knocked off the front by a Megafarma Quickstep. Megafarma Quickstep again looking to control things. Sean said they did a good enough job on the flat yesterday, but perhaps went a little missing when they needed to be around and surrounding the Maglia Rosa. Confetti time in the meantime out there on the course. Going through Lombardy today, Lombardia, skirting the town of Milan. Time to stretch out before the rest day. 113 there was Kenny de Haas. Some beautiful scenery around here. It's Giro di Lombardia country in a part of the world that you know very well, Sean, having been victorious here. What's your favourite climb in this region?
Well, Valcava was a real nice climb, and it was a climb where you could get rid of a lot of the riders which you needed to get rid of. Anybody with a bit of a sprint, there was no way they were going to get over that, and I also had to struggle a number of times to make it, because my climbing ability wouldn't have been as good as some of the riders I was trying to stay with, but you could, if you were going well, you dig in and suffer over that one. Well, then you can be sure you have a very small group, and the years that I won went over Valcava, and small group, 8, maybe 10 riders maximum, and of course then there's a long ways to finish as well, so you can get everybody to do their share of work, and it wears everybody down. And of course, if you have a bit of a sprint, then you can win a Tour of Lombardy in that way. But a lovely race and a great part of the country to race in, if you get the weather. Unfortunately, Tour of Lombardy the last number of years, it seemed to be just a downpour every year, and that makes it very dangerous, as we have seen in this race, when you get the wet conditions. But when you get at that time of year, the falling leaves, it's so much more dangerous, and they have been unlucky with the Tour of Lombardy in the last couple of years. Very bad conditions.
It's almost been like deja vu. I actually commented on the last couple of Giro di Lombardia for Eurosport, and we've had Rodriguez winning a couple of times, we've had the weather, we've had the rain. It's been absolutely awful, but still epic racing, and we're looking for more of that today. Here is our leader, Rigoberto Uran, riding for a Megafarma Quickstep. Fourth leader of this Giro d'Italia, following Spain Tuft, Michael Matthews and Cadel Evans. Up to the breakaway. Agi Dessert have got a man in there again. Tactically, they've been the best team out the lot so far, haven't they, Agi Dessert? They've been brilliant.
Well, they're a team that's really riding well this year, and it's a team that we haven't maybe expected to ride so well, but this year exceptional in so many races, and again in this Giro they're very prominent and very much to the fore, and we see them yesterday taking up the pace setting at the beginning of the climb. So yeah, it's looking good for for their leader, and they are doing a very good job for Pozzovivo. The other thing, Iran, I think we talked about that yesterday, Omega Pharma Quick Step. It looked like that he was isolated, but he had Walter Pools there, who actually finished a little bit ahead of him yesterday, which is an interesting one. He went on with Cad 11s and took a number of seconds from Iran. And they also had, Julian Vermort, who wasn't that far off. He was only at 4 minutes, and they're still leading the clean classification. So are they thinking about that as well? That is going to be a difficult one to try and look after Iran, pink jersey, and also hold on to the team general classification. I think they did a nice job yesterday. And, with 2 riders up there close to Iran in the end, still strong performance from them.
It's an interesting composition this break. We've got some very, very good riders, some strong climbers. We've got a former Giro winner in Damiano Cunego, Adam Hansen, who took a great win here last year, Enrico Barbini we've seen already, Jackson Rodriguez was second the other day, Maxime Bouet, top rider for Age de Zen. Again, you have to wonder about what they're thinking of tactically with that. We're getting a little bit of news from our cousins at Italian television. It's quite a nice little juicy nugget of information. Fabio Felline is the Trek Factory Racing representative in this breakaway. And they've actually confirmed to our friends at Rai Television, Italian national broadcasters, that his purpose today in the breakaway is to get there and wait for Julian Arredondo's attack. He's going out for the win today. He wants to win this stage, and he wants to get more points for the King of the Mountains. Interesting tactic.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see, can they put that tactic into motion. It looks at this moment, with a breakaway out there and with Arredondo back in peloton, it's a more difficult one to put into motion, because when you get to the final climb with Arredondo in the main peloton of big favourites, then you have a problem. There's so many of the favourites who want to do something on the climb. Then there's the guys who feel they can maybe have a go for a stage, and you put the two together. For Arredondo, it's going to be a difficult one. Is he that good to be able to ride away and take maximum points for the GP, or take a big amount of points? And if he can do that, well, then he's not going to be far away from stage victory as well. So we'll have to wait and see. Yesterday it was a surprise. We see Arredondo really pulling strong on the front with Rigoberto Urán in his wheel. Was Urán or
Kieslowski, his teammate, was around as well.
Yes, there was a bit of we got a little bit confused anyway, but it was
with the different jerseys they're wearing. Of
yes,
course.
it got a bit exciting for me, and I thought he was going to try and continue on there and go all the way and try and get some GP classification points, but he ran out of power very quickly and pulled over and just cruised in. But it'll be interesting today. I think if he's really up for it, well, who knows, he could put in a big performance here, and he needs to start getting some points here, because the past 2 days, yesterday as well, he didn't pick up anything, so he's not anyway secure in that classification at all at the moment.
Well, you can see that Trek do have an idea to put that tactic we were discussing into motion, because they're now contributing to the chase with Neri Sottoli, who's taken it up again. And Sean, as soon as they do take it up, the gap starts to come down once more. 6:26, a few worried people out here in the break. I wonder how long it is before we see those get a little too worried in the break, and we see everybody trying to work that a little bit harder, trying to push it out a bit more, and we get a split in the break as well of those who want to hang back, want to go forward. We're set up for another wonderful day's racing. 6:19 as the gap is coming down, in between 50 kilometres. Time to wake up. We're off for a quick break. Grab yourself a coffee. See you in a moment. 168 riders left in the Giro. Neri Sottoli riding on the front of the peloton today. They've missed the break. They've been told off, and they've been told to ride. Trek Factory Racing are riding because they want to do something with Julian Arredondo and the blue jersey. Luca Paolini, in the meantime, in the break today, one of 12 riders out there. They have a very good gap of around 10 minutes. I'm sure they were thinking they could make it, but it's a long climb towards the end today. Sean, you'd be thinking that they need a good gap, 8 to 10 minutes, something like that.
Well, I reckon they would use the 8 minutes, because this climb is a horrible one. It just goes on and on. It's 19.35 k. There is a little bit of respite in the middle, roughly about 2k, 2.5 k maybe, and they will certainly need that to get a little bit of recovery. But the percentage all the way, it's a real killer, and it's going to be and really interesting one. The breakaway, we'll have to see. The way it's looking at the moment, not looking good, because this advantage is coming down once again, and we have seen what's happening on the front of the peloton. You know, teams taking it up here. And as you said, 8 minutes, I think, is around the advantage they would need. And this is a long day as well, 225 k's. So it's, you know, it's a wearing down process before ever you get to the final climb of the day. And the big guys, if they go into the battle early on this one, and I mean, you know, with 10 kilometers to go, there will be also more gaps, and the general classification, we could see more changes again today. And you know, this is what we're expecting. These are the days where the general classification, the guys who are going to win this Giro, we can see them, and the guys who are not going to win the Giro, we will certainly see more of them this evening.
Thanks to @SouthCoastCycles for writing in on Twitter. Remember, you can get in touch with us, #Eurosportcycling, @RobHatchTV for questions directly to us in the commentary box. South Coast Cycles, just questioning what we were talking about with Trek Factory Racing a moment ago, and it's a very, very valid point to make as well. They talk about Robert Kieslowski, the Croatian, 5 minutes and 13 seconds down, 10th on GC. Are they riding for Arredondo? Are they riding for Kieslowski? Well, it may be a combination of both, but the information that we have from the horse's mouth, from Luca Guercilena, who has told Italian national television this very thing, is that they want to set up Arredondo for a stage win today. We will see what happens. At the minute, Neri Sottili are doing the best to ruin everybody's plans anyway, because they're doing a good job riding on the front. And of course, they want to save the day. It's their job to animate the day. Garmin at the back only have 5 riders left. Dylan van Baarle did not start today, the young Netherlands rider wearing 98. He was 97th on GC. It was apparently planned that he wasn't going to ride the full 3 weeks of the Giro d'Italia, given the fact that he is a neo-pro. So he didn't start today, and we had one abandon early on today, Mitchell Docker. That means Orica Green Edge are down to 3 riders now, and we were all praising them last week, Sean, saying they'd had a fantastic start to this Giro. Maybe in rather light-hearted terms, they've taken it a bit too seriously, and they've all gone home now.
Well, I think they had a fabulous start, and they got the results. I think, you know, you could have a team riding and riders really going well, but not winning, and it's all about getting the wins and getting the exposure. Orica Green Edge, they got that in the first week of the race, and they had, you know, a dream start for a team. Unfortunately, they're starting to suffer, you know, crashes, all of those things.
There's a virus as well apparently going through, which is done for both Veining and Docker.
Yes, a virus, so yeah, they're really struggling, and it's difficult for the riders that are left in there to continue on with 3 riders. You can imagine at the table at night time and the morning, more so when you get up, you come down for breakfast there with 3 riders. I've experienced as well in the past, and it is a difficult one, but if you're going well, the 3 riders are in there, if you're getting through, you're not suffering. If you haven't got the virus, well, then it's not too bad. But if you're also hanging there with the virus and you're on the limit and just struggling to get through every day, it's such a head wrecker.
Well, at least they get their own rooms each, a bit of privacy, unless they want to save a bit of money on the hotel rooms.
Well, if you're in your room on your own, it's also lonely. And it's lonely enough at the table with 3 riders, but then if you go to the room on your own for the rest of the evening, and I don't think it improves anything. So, you know, when you're in the hotel, you share a room with another rider, and usually those riders don't like sharing together, and you always have a little bit of, you know, a little bit of a joke and, you know, a bit of a laugh, and you need that. And if you're with a good roommate who can, you know, when times are bad, he can, you know, keep things going, keep the morale up a bit, is very important. But with 3 riders, it's always difficult. But they can always think back, and I suppose that will be the big thing. The results they've got out of this race, they've got more than they would ever have dreamt about, so that's the good thing.
Well, Ivan Santaromita, the Italian champion, still there, as is Michael Hepburn and Svein Tuft. And Svein Tuft really has to be applauded for staying in this Giro d'Italia. He is a hard man as far as hard men go. Injured right at the very start. He's had some really nasty crashes, reported to be riding with broken bones anyway, and he's doing a great job to stay on the bike and just keep fighting it out, especially, as you were saying, with just 3 riders. And if you're really feeling it, there's that little bit more of a temptation, let's say, just to climb off and say, hang on, I've had enough, that's the first part of my season done.
Well, I hear the council's looking for him in the area where that big crash was, because he damaged the road so much when he hit it.
Well, he's a big boy, isn't he, Svein? He is a big, hard-working boy, and whatever happens, he'll always remember the start of this Giro d'Italia, the first Maglia Rosa on his birthday, of course. 12 in the break today. The front there for Garmin is Andre Cardoso, Portuguese climber who has to be watched if they get to this climb. Fabio Fellini right at the back there alongside Maxime Bouet, Agi de Zella Mondial, the French team. Bouet 40th in the standing, part of a team that is doing a superb job at the minute. A team that has 2 riders in the top 15. Pozzovivo the leader, Alexis Vouillarmeau, and well, Pozzovivo's promised to attack again, you know. He's had a superb Giro so far. Busy spring though, hasn't really stopped since Oman. Those personalised shoes that Adam Hansen makes for himself and wears. Of course, everything that is worn and used by pro cyclists as a law of cycling by the UCI has to be on sale, but apparently Adam Hansen, he likes making these shoes for himself and wants to keep wearing them, so he's put them at a ridiculously high price, so he doesn't realistically have to make one. If there's anybody rich out there who wants to buy a pair of shoes off Adam Hansen, you might give him a bit too much more of a job than he might want. Pretty snazzy shoes, aren't they?
Well, certainly different.
Unique, as he is a unique rider. One of the favoured riders in the peloton, of course.
Look like platform slippers.
Don't tell him that. There's a man who's ridden 8 Grand Tours without stopping. Skin suits are plenty for Omega Pharma Quick Step today. I mentioned them yesterday, certainly while the weather still is good and better. Going to be riding on the front for a long time. Many riders going for that. We were talking about Pozzovivo a minute ago. We will talk about him when we come back from this latest commercial break. And Neri Sottoli's attempts to bring down this gap. It's just gone below 5 minutes. Keep it Eurosport Cycling and the Giro d'Italia. Through Lovere, end of Iseo Lake. Like many towns in northern Italy, very, very important as an industrial centre. Italy with this great difference between the industrial north and the rural south. It really is a country of contrasts. Well, we've had contrasting weather between north and south, but the wrong way around, really, in this Giro so far. It's been beautiful up north. Beautiful scenery as well, as you can see. This is where the Alps and the Dolomites just fall into the lakes. You're watching the break of the beards today. Luca Paolini's in there, Simon Geschke's in there. It's a day for the hipsters. I think they had a little bit of a shave this morning to make themselves that bit more aerodynamic. 37.1 kilometres to go. 4 minutes and 46 now. Iseo Lake. This break really has been reeled in so much by Neri Sottoli. Because they're doing their best to try and make this active. But as it goes, it looks as though the way it's coming down, we're going to see a fight between the GC contenders. Need about an 8-minute gap at least to have a good fight out in here. We saw plenty of Croatian support for Kieslowski there. There's Adam Hansen. Yeah, I mentioned his snazzy shoes a moment ago. Talking of the GC contenders, let's hear from the man who was in pink, Cadel Evans, former Tour de France winner.
You just gained a handful of seconds yesterday in Oran, and that must be very encouraging.
Oh, a handful, I don't know about that. It's for how difficult the race has been, it's really close. We've lost time, gained time here and there for all a range of reasons. It was interesting to see how their team went when they were pressured, and how the race unfolded. And today a longer stage, another day in the mountains, and the fatigue of yesterday. It's of course shaping up to be an interesting race, and interesting in the sense of interesting for you watching. Close racing as always, it seems, for me involved.
Cadel's excited about it, and so are we. This is the final kilometre on the right-hand side. 450 metres to go. You can see the road surface leaves something to be desired. It's been a long time since we've been up here on the Giro d'Italia. Plan di Montecampione, of course, as many of you are aware, a lot of you are not happy about, but of course this is the choice of the organisers. We're celebrating Marco Pantani this year. At least the Giro organisers are. 10 years since his untimely death. And this is the scene of one of his biggest wins, the year he won the Tour and the Giro in the same year. But we're up to Montecampione. It's Twice we've been up here, and twice the winner of the stage has gone on to win the Giro. That's how important it is. But of course in this Giro we've got Zoncolan, we've got Montegrappa, we've got Stelvio, Gavia, everything else coming up. So it might not be the case as back in 82 when Bernardino won it, and 98 with Pantani win it. It's certainly not going to be decisive today. There's a lot of riding still to go, as you mentioned, Sean, yesterday. And of course we saw the first little bits of weakness maybe for Uran. We're not quite sure whether it was just a bad day or a sign of things to come. And we saw certainly Nairo Quintana opening up his challenge, getting some seconds back, good 25 seconds back in fact, starting to feel a little better after his first his bump on the hip, then his antibiotics and nasty cold. Uran on the left under pressure. Quintana into his natural habitat of the mountains now, and he's got allies. We saw that yesterday, although they fell out in the first time they were supposed to work together, Pozzovivo and Quintana. Pozzovivo wanting something out. Quintana actually agreeing with the criticism that Pozzovivo put across to him yesterday, saying, well, it was right to criticise me, but I had no other choice because I had no energy to go. He said that I'm getting better, and for the stages that remain, it's a good sign. Now, Sean, this is the first time that Quintana's actually talked himself up in the whole Giro. Does everybody else need to start worrying now?
Well, I think with yesterday's performance, we can see Quintana, as forecasted right from the start of this Giro, that he would be the big favourite. Had some problems with crashes and getting a cold, taking antibiotics, but still yesterday he was impressive there. And you know, I'm not surprised that Pozzovivo wasn't happy, because Quintana certainly did not do as much work as Pozzovivo, and then Quintana rode away in the end and took 4 seconds from him. And normally if you're suffering a bit and you sit on a rider, not to get into that situation, you just stay with the guy and leave him continue on and just follow him all the way to the line in his wheel. But of course Quintana did take that time, but it's looking more and more we could see Quintana. And as you mentioned, the past times we have up here to Montecampione, the guy who wins goes on to win the Giro. Will we see that today? Because it looks now that it's going to all come back together again, and we could see Quintana winning a stage here, because he showed the first signs of that type of a climber he is. He's just so strong in these mountaintop finishes, and the longer it goes on, he's such a lightweight, I think he will have the advantage. And the percentage there very steep today, it's all textbook stuff for him.
Pozzovivo in the meantime said, well, I came to the Giro aiming for the top. What sort of climber would I be if I didn't attack? I will attack. That's really refreshing to hear. Big talk from a small man, but who is gigantic on a bicycle. He's been brilliant as well so far.
Yes, well, he is. He's been really good, because any time that there's the opportunity on the uphill, he is going in the attack. And the team, I suppose, is put him into the position as well. You know, they start riding. The director sportive, he does that. You know, he just says to the guys, okay, you get to the front there 2-3 years and just make the pace on the earlier part of the mountain as long as you can, and set a very fast pace. And then Pozzovivo, he feels obliged, he has to attack. And I know the situation, you know, the pressure is on then. So if you have anything in the tank at all, you're going to try. And sometimes, you know, you're feeling a bit in difficulty on a final climb, and you just wait and you follow. But if you have a team riding for you, well, then you're a bit more under pressure to attack, and it does help. You have to be really pushed in these climbs. You know, you have to make it suffer. You have to just dig so deep, and when you get the team working for you early on, well, then you feel a bit obliged. You have to go on the attack and try at least.
Rafael Majka in the white there, another man who's been going quietly about his business, as was Fabio Aru yesterday, with more Sardinian support, pardon me, flags all over the place. You can tell the Sardinian flags there across the St George, with the 4 heads in each white square. You can see them aplenty along the route today. You can actually see it on the back of one of the cameraman's helmets. One of the famed Giro cameramen has a Sardinian helmet on the back. He hails from the same island as Fabio Aru. Look out for that there. There's one of our bearded riders, Simon Geske. Such a talented rider and such a hard-working rider. We mentioned it the other day when he won the sprint. Really good in the classics in the last few years. Luca Paolini as well at the back. He's got his Russian-coloured helmet on today. He's riding for a Russian team. He's been having unique designs on each different stage on that well-publicised helmet of his. He's been doing great work for charity as well, I must say, Luca Paolini. He's been helping out Marino Romoli who sadly suffered a spinal injury while cycling years ago, and they're doing a lot of research into that. Paolini giving up a lot of his time, as is the Italian TV presenter Alessandro Stefano, doing great work together. You'll find out more about that if you visit their Twitter pages as well. 4 minutes now, Sean, 30.8 kilometres to go. We're just over 10 k's from this climb. At this rate, there's going to be hardly any gap when they get to the climb. We're ready for fireworks already.
Yes, the pot is starting to simmer.
It certainly is.
And we can see there, you know, the same situation. Neri Sotoli really pushing on. Trek Factory Racing also putting a man in there. And this is going to be an exciting final once again. Looking at the breakaway, the FDJ rider, Johan Lebon, first time I think we might have seen a Française de Joux rider in the breakaway. We talked about that a lot. They were very much behind the Nasser Bohani, their sprinter, but of course, you know, he was looking impressive yesterday, and today is a day where, you know, sit in the bunch for the sprinters, the non-climbers. You just you know, tag along here in the bunch, get to the final climb and then get up at your pace, but it's not going to be a problem because they're going to get dropped in the, you know, the very end of the stage, so they don't have that fight. And interesting to see that Française de Joux, the tactic changed a little bit there today.
Certainly has changed. Heading through Bustarzisio and Monza, famous for other sports in Italy. Monza, of course, for motorsports. Bustarzisio, former European champions in volleyball. Up through Casazza, Lovere, where we've just seen, Wario Terme, and then the climb. Plan di Montecampione in the hills and mountains above Lombardy, 1,665 metres above sea level. And we're into the final 30 kilometres. Sebastian Chavanel at the back. There is André Cardoso. He's in the blue of Garmin, another team looking for something from this Giro d'Italia. 5 riders left for them. Nice and warm out there at the minute. The sun is shining, the Maglia Rosa is on show. And we're all waiting for the big show here on the Giro d'Italia. We had epic cycling proportions yesterday, and we'll see it a little later on. Don't go away. Giro finish coming up. The pace is really on this stage 15 of the Giro d'Italia. 3 minutes 44. Neri Sotoli are going to be pretty unpopular amongst teams in the break. They missed out. They've reeled it back in just as we had Androni the other day. I wonder if we're going to get any betting slips sent to him from all of those who put bets on from people out in the break. The pace is very high. The nerves are building. We're going to get a big change from the big ring to the little ring. The rhythm is going to change. It's going to be an upset for all of those people who are enjoying rolling along at a nice pace on the flat. It has been pan flat today, all along the plains and the rice plains of Lombardy. In fact, up into the very, very pretty, but very, very punishing mountains in the area. One little thing to clear up before we begin the fireworks today. We've had news coming from Colombia from a very reputable source, Colombian journalists who follow Colombian cycling. Apparently Sergio Henao is on his way back to Europe this very weekend, and he is provisionally, according to these Colombian journalists, down to ride the Tour de France for Team Sky. That's a sea change already, and well, Team Sky have been struggling in this race. If he does come back, Sean, he's a very, very talented rider, and it'd be very good news for Chris Froome.
Yes, well, it would be a very valuable asset to the team, because in the mountain stages you can rely on a rider like that. And you know, we've seen the riders now, when they're out of competition for a while, they can train so well. They go away and they do these blocks of training, and they come back and they're so competitive. Mick Rogers, we see, you know, very, very impressive here when he won his stage, and you know, in the race, very much in the race here, and that is the thing they can do. So it will be a good thing for Sky, and unfortunately here for Sky, yesterday it looked very good. The final kilometre, I was sure Sky were going to have a stage victory, and I presume the director sportives back in the car as well were looking at the final and being very happy, but unfortunately didn't work out for them.
I think the one thing that cycling fans, and I'll say this on behalf of cycling fans, would ask from Team Sky is a clear explanation as to what went on with Sergio Henao there. It would be nice if there would be transparency, and of course then everybody can go to the Tour de France, cheer for him, cheer for whoever you want to cheer for, and enjoy the spectacle. That would be great news. But of course, if everything is okay, and it sounds as though, according to our sources, it would be great to see such a talented rider back in the peloton. 3.5 minutes then, 25.4 kilometres to go. Fireworks very, very close to being let off. We had it yesterday We had a super stage on the Giro d'Italia, and we're hoping for more today. Less than 3.5 minutes now. What's going through these riders' heads? Because an hour and a half ago, they must have been thinking, great, hands rubbing together, got a chance of winning a stage today. That's been killed by Nelly Sottoli at the minute.
Yes, well, a lot of disappointed riders, and a lot of riders happy with the situation also back in the peloton, because now they comes into a situation where they can have a go for stage victory, and the ones who are really good climbers, of course, you know, they're going to be happy, but the breakaway are going to be really unhappy with Nero Sottoli for doing the chasing, because they should have 10 plus minutes here at this point, but unfortunately, again, you know, a team not represented up there, and I suppose when you look at the teams that are having success, Italian teams, you know, there's a lot of friction, I think, going on. The press as well are probably just stirring that up a bit as they do, and you know, the team is a bit obliged to ride here. Nero Sottoli just you know, taking it up, but you know, they're going to pay the price when they hit this climb. Who have they got to do something here? It's going to be difficult for them, you know, to make a result here against the men they're going to be fighting against for the stage victory, because you have, you know, the pure climbers, Pozzovivo, Quintana and co. So yeah, they're not thinking about that. They're just going to, you know, keep on doing the job they started out to do.
Mechanical for Bernie Eisel. I think he'd be too worried. His job today is done. Interesting looking at Sky in the Mountains, how Sebastiane now climbs. Cousin of Sergio now, the rider we're talking about, climbed okay so far. He's lost time on the crashes and things like that. This is the break then, trying to keep it going. 24.2 kilometres. Look at that average race speed. It has been a hugely fast day so far today. I think we're going quicker than the quickest time schedule, aren't we?
Yes. Well, they were averaging, the quickest one they have calculated here is 40 average, and as we can see, we're well over that. And it's not surprising, because the race was, you know, very, very fast in the start, the breakaway to get away, and now, you know, with the bunch being very active for a long time out front, the breakaway has got to do it as well, and we can see, unfortunately for the breakaway, you know, coming down to 3 minutes here is going to be down all to a big final between, you know, the winner out of the main peloton.
Well, the big teams have now seemingly accepted the situation that this is a very small gap, and it's they themselves now who take this up, because they want all their leaders to be in the right place on the climb. They've assumed that the tactic and the dynamic of this race today has changed as to what it might be, and they're now just doing the job at hand on it.
Yes, I think, well, we're coming to the point now, 23.4 kilometres to go. As we said, the climb, you know, it's just a long one today, and 19.3 kilometres, so we're coming to the climb very quickly, and I think Nero Sottoli are, you know, suffering, because they have run at a very, very fast pace, and they have done the job to close it down. The break is not going to survive today.
Let that be a lesson to you, will be the message at the dinner table, I think, tonight. Certainly has been punishment. It's like going to the school headmaster, isn't it? And awaiting the punishment. Luca Shinto dealt it out from the cart, and now Movistar take things up at the front. 23 k's to go, the climb beginning in just under 4 kilometres now. Plan di Montecampione, you can see it, we're at the foot of these giant, jagged mountains that rise out of nowhere. Jackson Rodriguez. Damiano Cunego on the left-hand side, former winner of the Giro d'Italia, a little prince, remember. Rafa Torres, decent climber for Colombia. Nelly Sottoli, well, those tired legs you were talking about, sure. Finetto at the back of the group there. Takes a bottle and the Vidon back to the group. Dying embers of the breakaway, 2.5 minutes ahead. I say dying embers because they're about to hit a wall. 20 kilometres to go. In the next kilometre, the climb starts, and it starts out of nowhere. Straight away, Simon Geschke on your screen there, and the rest of these guys. Rodriguez, Rato, Le Bon, Torres, Barbin, Anbue, Cardoso, Hansen, Paolini, Cunego, Feline. All are about to hit, and I don't think they'll know what has hit them quite, because it goes uphill straight away. It's a huge change of rhythm. It's a change out of the big ring into the little ring almost straight away, and it's something that really affects your riding, Sean, certainly when you've been going on the flat all day and you've been reeling along and rolling along, powering that big gear along. Yes,
it's hard to adjust when you're just going at a rate, and they have been going at a fast rate all day. As we can see, the average were well up on the fastest average scheduled in the route book. So it's big gear stuff, and as you said, you go into the climb and it just kicks up immediately. If you had a little bit where it goes up 2-3% for a kilometre, then 5%, and get into the rhythm a bit, but you haven't got that, it'll be just 53-13 to a 39-23, and that is a big change in ratio. So that is it's going to be a killer. And the way they come onto it as well, if you ride onto it a little bit steadier, but we can see main peloton, it's all starting to get excited up here in front. The big teams are starting to prepare their general classification men, and they're going to hit it at 55-60k an hour, and that is going to be a big pain.
It's almost a change of riding style as well, straight away, isn't it? Pedaling style, riding style, everything changes. Your mentality suddenly changes because, let's face it, you know what is ahead.
Yes, well, I think some guys can accommodate that. They can adapt to. The climbers can do it, but some of the guys who are not as good climbers, well, then you have a difficulty adapting to it when you go from that big, fast, big gear stuff to the small ratio. It takes you a little bit of time, and if they go very fast in the first number of kilometres, that's where you could start losing ground and slip back a lot. And of course, that's not what you want to do on a climb like this. You want to stay up there in the top 15-20 riders and just follow. But if they continue as they're going, well, it's going to really, the peloton will be in pieces immediately.
Marco Pantani again. This is the stage that is dedicated to him officially by the organisers. Yes, we had images of him yesterday. Plan di Montecampione, though, is being taken on in 2014 as well. Maximum slope up to 12%, average at 7.6%, but it's a long climb. The gradient doesn't change too much, as you saw there. It begins right now, and the riders just go straight uphill. Sean was saying a brutal change in things. Pantani beat Tonko all that time ago. Actually finalised his underneath 2 minutes, 18.5 kilometres to go. Who's going to win today's stage? Hashtag Eurosport Cycling at Rob Hatch TV. We'd love to hear from you, but for the break, it's now or never. And here we go. Adam Hansen decides that he's going to press on now. You either have the legs or you don't. And it's all about staying with or drifting away. I think almost immediately here, Sean, we've got plenty of hairpins as well. It's about if you can stay it, if you can't. And I think the way they've been riding, some guys are just not going to have the legs from the off.
No, I think in the breakaway there's going to be gaps, and we can see him appearing already. And of course, in the breakaway they're not going to hit it like the peloton is coming into it. They're going at a much faster rate, and just Hansen is pushing on here, and we can see that there's guys, gaps appearing immediately.
Adam Hansen, a great record of all of these Grand Tours in succession. He said he wants another stage win here, becoming a very popular rider. One of the most popular in the peloton, of course, all the talk of Jens Vogt over the last years. Adam Hansen is a remarkable rider. Cadel Evans ready, put into the right place. GC boys about to kick off behind, and I think the way this is going with the gap now down to 1 minute and 33, this is the group that we're going to be following all the way up the climb. Arashiro at the back, the Japanese champion. Just to the right of him, Eugenio Alafacci. And there's Jetse Bol, number 42. Peloton then hit the slopes of Plan di Montecampione. 19.3 kilometres in length, climbing almost 1,400 metres. And the pink jersey of Uran is in there. Hansen then strikes out for home. Long way to go yet. And again, whatever happens, if you don't try, then you don't get. Adam Hansen certainly is trying, and it's very much in his nature as a rider. Good luck to him here, but this is a very hard task to take on your own, isn't it?
Yes, well, it is a major task. This climb on its own, if you had 10 minutes in advantage, it would be a big task here. And of course, we're going to talk about this later on. If the break had stayed away, who would have been the strongest? And we did mention it earlier on when we see the riders.
And here goes Arredondo. We knew this was coming.
This is early.
This is very early, but he feels confident. So first task here for Arredondo is to find his teammate, Fabio Fellini. Then he'll be expected to turn on the heat. Arredondo to finish the job. Can he do it? He's tried a couple of times before already on this Giro. He came here to ride for GC. Didn't happen when he was caught up in a crash. Lost 18 minutes, but he's the king of the mountains at the moment. He wants a stage win as well, and he wants all the points. Remember, a first category climb this, so a full lot of points to be won at the end of it. Well, we've already got a couple of very ambitious riders here.
Yes, and it looks like we have more ambitious coming out of the peloton here. Pirazzi making a move, isn't it?
Pirazzi, we expect him to go.
We could see also Team Europe cars seem to be moving on the front there. So again, quite a bit of movement here. And with this, an attack of you know, the Arredondo, the mountain classification leader, it's going to make it so much more difficult, because no time to settle at all now with riders trying to come across.
Well, Pirazzi is the man who currently holds the mountain classifications jersey from last year's Giro. He's striking out now, and it's a battle between two direct contestants for the blue jersey in this Giro d'Italia. Pirazzi wants to get going in this final week. There is Arredondo, 1.5 minutes behind it. Pirazzi has Zardini for company for the moment.